Welcome to Soothing Dreamtime Ambiance. Tonight, we are leaving the waking world behind to wander through the liquid gardens of Claude Monet. Before we begin our journey into the facts and history of Giverny, I invite you to become a part of our community. If you find peace here, please subscribe to join us for future rests. Like this video to help others find this sanctuary, and feel free to comment below with your favorite flower or a memory of a peaceful garden you visited. Your presence here is a gift. Finding the still point. Now, let us prepare the body for stillness. Whether you are in bed or a quiet chair, begin to settle. Adjust your pillows. Feel the weight of your body being fully supported by the surface beneath you. You don't need to hold yourself up anymore. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Unclench your jaw. Soften the space between your eyebrows. Imagine you are like a water lily, resting effortlessly on the surface of a calm, dark pond. You are buoyant. You are safe. The water breath exercise. Bring your attention to your breath. We will breathe in the rhythm of a gentle ripple. Inhale slowly for 4 counts. Imagining the cool blue water rising. At the peak of the tide. Letting the breath flow out like a slow stream. Inhale slowly for 4 counts. Hold for 2 counts. Exhale for 6 counts. Rest for 2 counts. Inhale slowly. Feel the air move through you like a breeze through the weeping willows. With every exhale, the edges of your thoughts begin to blur. The objects in your room are losing their sharp lines. Everything is dissolving into a soft, colorful mist. The transition. You are now ready. Your mind is open and still, like a mirror of water. We will now begin our exploration of Monet's water lilies. Let the facts wash over you like light on the pond. You don't need to remember them. Just let them exist. We begin. Monet moved to Giverny in April 1883. He initially rented the house before buying it in 1890. The property was originally a farm with an orchard and a cider press. He spent decades transforming the land into a living canvas. In 1893, he bought an additional plot of land across the railway tracks. This new land would become the famous water garden. He sought permission from the local government to divert the Rue, a branch of the River Epte. Local farmers initially feared his exotic plants would poison their cattle's water. Monet designed the Japanese footbridge himself. The bridge was built by a local carpenter. Unlike traditional red Japanese bridges, Monet painted his green to blend with the foliage. He ordered his first water lilies from the Latour Marliac nursery. He chose hybrid lilies that were colorful and frost-resistant. At first, he painted the pond with a traditional horizon line. By 1904, he began to remove the horizon from his compositions. He eventually focused entirely on the surface of the water. This perspective created a sense of boundless space. He called his pond his mirror of focus. He employed a team of 6 full-time gardeners. One gardener's specific job was to paddle a boat into the pond and clean the lily pads. They would wipe soot and dust off the leaves so the green would be pure for Monet. Monet rose at dawn every day to catch the first light. He usually went to bed by 9 p.m. to follow the sun's rhythm. He kept a library of horticultural books in several languages. He often swapped seeds and cuttings with his friend and fellow painter, Gustave Caillebotte. Monet's vision began to fail him in 1912 due to cataracts. He described his failing vision as seeing the world through a mist.
Before cobalt violet, artists had to mix red and blue, which often resulted in muddy tones. Monet's use of pure violet was revolutionary and became a hallmark of the Impressionist style. He studied the laws of simultaneous contrast by chemist Michel-Eugène Chevreul. This theory explains how placing a primary color next to its complement makes both appear more vivid. Monet placed orange sunset tones next to blue water to make the canvas vibrate. He described this vibration as the soul of the painting. The water in the pond was kept at a specific depth to ensure the lilies remained buoyant. He used a sluice gate system to control the water level of the pond. Monet's fascination with water was partly due to its instability. It is never the same twice. He once said that water is the essence of my work. The dissolution of the object refers to his late style, where the subject matter melts into pure color. In these paintings, it is difficult to tell where the water ends and the reflection of the sky begins. This effect was meant to mirror the oneness of nature. He intentionally avoided using black lines to outline objects. Instead, he used color-to-color transitions to define shapes. This lack of hard edges creates a dreamlike state for the viewer. In his later years, he preferred to paint on canvases that were nearly square. The square format helped remove the landscape feel and made the painting more abstract. Monet was one of the first artists to create environmental art, art that changes the room it is in. He wanted his paintings to be walls of light. During the restoration of Giverny, thousands of tons of mud were removed to find the original pond floor. The restorers found fragments of clay pipes Monet used for his irrigation. Monet's garden was not static. He changed the flower beds every year like a revolving gallery. He spent more money on his garden than he did on his house. His passion for gardening was so great that he often wrote to his wife, Alice, about his anxiety for the plants. If a frost was predicted, he would stay awake at night worrying about his lilies. He grew over 50 varieties of roses in the close Normand part of the garden. The Grandes Décorations are often called the Sistine Chapel of Impressionism. Unlike the Sistine Chapel, which looks up at heaven, Monet's masterpiece looks down into the water. This downward gaze is thought to be more grounding and meditative. Monet used ultramarine blue for the deepest parts of the pond's reflections. French ultramarine was a synthetic version of lapis lazuli, which was once more expensive than gold. Its affordability in the 19th century allowed Monet to use it in vast quantities. He often applied paint with stippling, small dots that blend in the viewer's eye. This technique is also known as optical mixing.
The air at Giverny was often filled with the scent of night-scented stock flowers. Monet believed that the scent of the garden influenced the mood of his colors. He viewed his garden as a fortress against the industrialization of the world. He refused to travel in his final years, saying Giverny was the only world he needed. The agapanthus, African lily, appears in many of his later, larger works. These plants provided long, thin, vertical lines that sliced through the water's surface. Stuckey points out that Monet's late work was prophetic of the 20th century. It moved art away from stating facts to evoking feelings. Monet's brushstrokes are often compared to the rhythm of breathing. Some strokes are short and frantic, others are long and flowing. This rhythmic variety gives the paintings a pulse. He once wrote, "I am following a dream. I want the impossible." The impossible was to capture the exact moment light touches an object before it moves. He called the light the beauty of the world. The Japanese bridge was inspired by his collection of ukiyo-e prints. Ukiyo-e translates to pictures of the floating world. This title perfectly describes his water lily series. Monet was a master of the triptych, three-paneled format. He used triptychs to create a panorama that the eye cannot take in all at once. This forces the viewer to move their head, involving the whole body in the experience. The green reflections panel in the orangerie is nearly 40 feet long. It features the reflection of a weeping willow, but the tree itself is never seen. This absence of the object is a key step to total abstraction. Monet's cataracts made him particularly sensitive to glare. He began to paint in the shaded parts of the day to protect his eyes. This resulted in the blue-violet period of his work. He used a scrubbing motion with his brush to create the texture of moss.
The thickness of the paint on his late canvases can be up to half an inch. These mountainous surfaces catch the real light in the museum gallery. Monet's house was painted pink with green shutters, a color scheme he chose himself. He hated the bourgeois dark woods and heavy drapes of the time. He wanted his interior to be as bright as his paintings. The kitchen was tiled in blue to keep the flies away, a common belief in the 19th century. Monet's water lily paintings were his way of organizing chaos. He took the messy, wild nature of a pond and turned it into a visual poem.
He often painted during the blue hour. The twilight, just before dark. During this time, colors lose their hue and become silhouettes. He was fascinated by how a red flower looks black in the twilight. Monet's garden had a lily house where he kept delicate seedlings. He would often go there at night with a lantern to check on them. He considered himself a slave to the light. His obsession with light meant he was often frustrated by a cloudless sky. He preferred mottled skies that created broken light on the water. The lily pads in his paintings are often arranged in spirals. This spiral arrangement pulls the viewer toward the center of the pond. He used emerald green, a pigment containing arsenic, for his brightest greens. This pigment was dangerous to handle, but its color was unmatched. Monet was careful not to let his brushes touch his skin while using it.
The Reflections of the Clouds panel is considered his spiritual testament. It suggests that the heavens are found on the earth in the water. This inversion of up and down creates a feeling of vertigo and peace simultaneously. Monet worked on the Orangery project until the day he died. His last words to his friend Clemenceau were about the garden. "I have painted the water lilies," he said, "to bring a little peace to the world." Monet's pond was roughly 1,000 square meters in size. He intentionally shaped the pond as an irregular curve, avoiding any straight lines. This organic shape ensured that every perspective of the water felt untamed. He planted bambusa along the banks to create a sound of rustling wind. The bamboo also acted as a visual screen, hiding the nearby railway tracks. Monet loved the azalea bushes that bloomed in spring, reflected as pink clouds in the water. He used a variety of nymphaea called Marliaceae rosea for soft pink tones. For deep, blood-red reflections, he used the Laedaceae fulgens variety. The Chromatella variety provided the brilliant yellow specks found in his sunlight panels. Monet's pond was a closed-circuit ecosystem he managed with extreme care. He fought a legal battle for years to keep the water flowing from the river branch. He considered the movement of the water vital to the movement of his brush. The lily pads were planted in wooden crates at the bottom of the pond. This allowed his gardeners to move the islands of lilies to suit his compositions. Essentially, Monet curated his pond before he painted it. He used alizarin crimson to deepen the shadows under the lily pads. Alizarin was one of the first synthetic dyes to replace the traditional madder root. Its transparency allowed Monet to layer shadow over light without losing luminosity. He often painted the pond in the rain, fascinated by the rings on the water's surface. These concentric circles represented the tactile nature of the water.
He viewed the water's surface as a membrane between two worlds. Above the membrane was the ephemeral sky. Below was the dark, mysterious depth. He often used viridian green for the underwater stems of the lilies. Viridian is a cold, powerful green. That suggests the coolness of deep water. Monet's brushstrokes in the Water Lily series are often circular or sweeping. This mirrors the physical act of the water swirling around the pads. He was a master of the scumble, applying a dry brush over a wet layer. This created a sparkle effect that mimicked sunlight hitting the ripples. He once said that his work was at once a visual record and a spiritual diary. By 1910, the garden was so famous that people would try to peek over the walls. Monet built the walls higher to maintain his monastic solitude. He famously stated, "I am only happy when I am in front of my canvases." His favorite time to paint was between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. when the sun was highest. During these hours, the colors were at their most honest and brutal.
He avoided the romantic light of sunrise in his later lily paintings. He preferred the midday glare, which flattened the objects into pure color. The Water Lilies at the MoMA in New York is a triptych that survived a fire in 1958. The fire damaged parts of the canvas, but the soul of the work remained intact. This specific triptych is nearly 13 feet wide. It is often described as a horizontal abyss. Monet used cadmium orange for the centers of the white lilies. This tiny dot of orange acts as a complementary anchor for the blue water. He often left parts of the primed canvas raw and unpainted. This allows the texture of the burlap to become part of the image. In his late 80s, Monet would sometimes paint with his hands or a cloth. He wanted to feel the paint move across the surface. This physical connection to the medium predates abstract expressionism by 40 years. He viewed the water lilies as a testament of a man who has seen too much. The war had taken many of his friends and family members. The pond was his silent companion through his grief. He planted potaceous or butterbur for their enormous prehistoric-looking leaves. These leaves provided a base note of dark green in his garden's palette. He used cerulean blue for the reflection of a clear, cloudless sky. Cerulean translates to heavenly blue. Monet's yellow nirvanas are a subset of the series focused on golden light. In these, the water looks like molten gold. This was his way of painting the heat of the summer. He was obsessed with the viscosity of the water. He wanted the viewer to feel how thick and slow the water moved in August. In winter, the water was thin and sharp, which he painted with jagged strokes. The Japanese bridge was covered in Wisteria multijuga, which has extra long flower clusters.
These clusters could reach up to 3 feet in length. Monet described them as vegetable stalactites. He often painted the bridge from a low angle, making it look like it was floating in air. This removes the sense of gravity from the painting. Weightlessness is a common theme in relaxation and meditation. Monet's art aims to provide this weightlessness to the viewer. He used Naples yellow for a creamy, subdued sunlight. Unlike the piercing cadmium, Naples yellow is soft and resting. He often sandwiched colors, placing a warm color between 2 cool ones. This technique is called temperature modulation. It makes the eye breathe as it moves across the painting. Monet's garden at Giverny is now a national monument of France. It is maintained by the Fondation Claude Monet. The gardeners today use the same source of seeds that Monet did. They still use the original 19th century methods of pruning and planting. The pond must be dredged every few years to keep the water clear. Monet's water lilies are sometimes called the apocalypse of Impressionism. They represent the end of the movement and the beginning of modern art.
He refused to follow any rules of composition in his final years. He believed that rules were the death of the artist. He once told a student, "Try to forget what objects you have before you." Merely think, here is a little square of blue. Here, an oblong of pink. This philosophy is the foundation of mindfulness in art. Looking at a Monet is a lesson in pure seeing. The orangerie panels were so heavy they required a special structural foundation. The curved walls are made of lath and plaster to support the burlap canvases. Monet designed the lighting to be diffuse so there would be no shadows on the art. He wanted the paintings to seem as if they were glowing from within. He used French ultramarine mixed with white to create atmospheric perspective. This makes the far side of the pond look like it is miles away. He often worked in the Great Studio, which was 12 meters high. He had a massive grand piano in his house, but rarely played it. He said the music of the garden was enough for him. He loved the sound of the wind through the poplars. He viewed the poplar trees as vertical rhythms in the landscape.
Monet's final paintings are almost tactile in their roughness. You can see the fight between the artist and his failing eyes in every stroke. Despite the struggle, the result is transcendent. Everything changes, Monet said, even stone. Monet's pond was located near the confluence of the Epte and Seine rivers. The proximity to these rivers created a microclimate of heavy morning mist. Monet utilized this mist to blur the distinction between water and air. He often referred to the morning fog as a veil of pearls. The water garden was protected by a thick hedge of thuja and cypress. This hedge acted as a windbreak, keeping the water surface as still as glass.
still water was essential for his Mirror series, where reflections are indistinguishable from reality. He used titanium white very sparingly in his later years for sharp highlights. Titanium white is more opaque than zinc, creating a piercing effect of light. Monet's yellow water lilies, 1907, are noted for their use of lemon cadmium. This specific yellow creates a cool heat rather than the warm heat of orange. He was fascinated by the refractive index of water, how a stem appears broken when submerged. He used this optical distortion to challenge the viewer's sense of depth. Stuckey describes Monet's late work as a surrender to the flux of nature. The artist moved from capturing nature to becoming part of it. The weeping willow branches in his paintings are often compared to waterfalls of green. He would paint these branches with long, vertical, dragged strokes. This technique required a brush with very stiff bristles. He often cleaned his brushes in turpentine and oil to keep the colors from muddying. Monet's orangerie panels were meant to be a bouquet for the French people. He considered the project a spiritual duty following the losses of World War I. His son, Michel, served in the war, which added a personal layer of anxiety to the art. The nymphaeas were his way of reclaiming beauty from destruction. He used manganese blue for the shadows of the clouds reflected in the water. Manganese blue has a unique grainy texture that suggests the atmosphere's depth. He often painted the underside of the lily pads with deep purples. This gave the plants a sense of weight despite floating on the surface. Monet's floating world was a rejection of materialism. He wanted to show that the most important things in life are light, air, and time. He once wrote, "I have no other desire to remain forever in this garden."
The agapanthus flowers in his garden were a deep electric blue. He used cobalt blue straight from the tube to match this intensity.
He often applied paint in crisscross patterns to create a sense of woven light. This weaving technique is very effective for relaxation videos as it mimics the texture of fabric. Monet's water lily series includes over 40 large-scale Grandes Décorations. Many of these are held in private collections and rarely seen by the public. The Cleveland Museum of Art holds a significant fragment of the Agapanthus triptych. When the triptych parts are brought together, they create a 42-foot-long experience. Monet's work has been described as the bridge to the 20th century. He influenced the color field painters of the 1960s, like Helen Frankenthaler. His garden at Giverny includes a water walk that circles the entire pond. This walk allows visitors to see the changing faces of the lilies as the sun moves. Monet believed that a garden is never the same from one minute to the next. This impermanence is a core concept in Zen philosophy. Monet owned several books on Japanese garden philosophy and Taoism. He found a connection between the flow of water and the flow of life. His surgery for cataracts was one of the first of its kind. He was terrified of losing his sight. Calling it the only thing that makes life worth living. After the surgery, he threw away dozens of canvases because he realized they were too yellow. His corrected vision allowed him to see the violet end of the spectrum again. This led to his rose and blue period in the early 1920s. The Nymphaeas panels are mounted on marufage, a technique using lead white paste to stick canvas to walls. This makes the paintings feel like a permanent part of the architecture. Monet wanted the transition between the room and the painting to be seamless. The Orangerie is often called the first immersive art installation. He chose the oval shape because it has no corners for the eye to get stuck in. This promotes a continuous state of looking. The clouds in his paintings are often empty spaces where the canvas peeks through. This creates a sense of breathing within the painting. He used strontium yellow for the subtle glow of the morning sun. This yellow is less aggressive than cadmium, perfect for morning scenes. Monet's Reflections of Trees panel is a masterclass in symmetry. The reflection is so perfect, it is difficult to tell which side is up. This inversion of reality is a common tool in linguistic pattern interrupts. It forces the brain to let go of logic and move into feeling. Monet was a fan of the music of Claude Debussy. Both artists were trying to capture Impressionism in their respective fields. Debussy's Reflets dans l'eau, Reflections in the Water, is the musical equivalent of Monet's Pond. Monet's brushwork in the 1920s became shorthand for emotion. A single stroke of pink could represent a whole cluster of lilies. This reduction of detail is what leads to peace of mind. He once said, "The richness I achieve comes from nature, the source of my inspiration." He viewed himself as a translator between the sun and the canvas. The water lilies at the Musée Marmottan Monet in Paris are from his personal collection. These were the paintings he couldn't bear to part with. Many of them are unfinished and show the raw energy of his process.
Monet's house is still filled with his original furniture.
The house is painted with chrome green, which he called the color of life. His yellow dining room was designed to feel like eating inside a sunflower. He believed that color should be used to improve the mood. He often spent his evenings reading catalogs for rare irises. He had over 200 varieties of iris in his garden. The iris blooms only for a short time, which Monet saw as a symbol of the moment. He used phthalo blue for the deepest shadows in his very last works. Phthalo blue is one of the strongest pigments ever created. It represents the infinity of the water's depth. Monet's Lily Pond series is a closed loop of beauty. It begins with the planting and ends with the dissolution of the paint. He considered his garden his best work. He died surrounded by the flowers he spent 40 years painting. His grave is in the Giverny churchyard, decorated with simple flowers. Even after his death, the lilies continue to bloom every summer. The Light of Giverny remains a pilgrimage site for artists worldwide. Monet's legacy is the idea that nature is enough. You don't need grand subjects to make grand art. A simple pond can contain the whole universe. The water lilies are a reminder to slow down. They are an invitation to just look. Monet's final gift was the orangery. A space for the world to exhale.
As his sight dimmed, his colors became warmer and more fiery. He began to use more reds, oranges, and muddy browns. To ensure he used the right colors, he kept his paint tubes in a specific order on his palette. He often labeled the tubes so he wouldn't confuse the pigments. In 1923, he finally underwent surgery on his right eye. After surgery, he could see ultraviolet light, which made some of his later work appear more ochre or violet. He often destroyed canvases he was unhappy with. At one point, he destroyed 15 major paintings before an exhibition. His friend Georges Clemenceau, the Prime Minister of France, encouraged him to keep painting. The Grandes Décorations was his final massive project. He began these large-scale panels in 1914, at the start of World War I. He built a special massive studio at Giverny to house the large canvases. The studio had skylights to provide consistent natural light. He painted these panels even while the sound of distant gunfire from the front lines could be heard. He donated the water lily cycle to the French state as a symbol of peace. The donation was formalized on the day after the 1918 armistice. The paintings were eventually installed in the Musée de l'Orangerie. The Orangerie features two oval-shaped rooms. Monet worked with architects to ensure the rooms were shaped like the symbol for infinity. The walls are curved to envelop the viewer in a 360-degree experience. He wanted the rooms to offer a refuge of peaceful meditation. There are 8 large panels in the Orangerie collection. Together, they span a total length of 91 meters. Each panel is exactly 2 meters high. The rooms are oriented east to west to follow the path of the sun. This allows the natural light from the skylights to change the paintings throughout the day. Monet called these works his landscapes of water and reflection. He often painted the same scene at different hours to capture the envelope of light. He believed the subject of the painting wasn't the lily, but the light itself. He often had several canvases going at once, switching as the sun moved. In the Orangerie, one panel is titled Clouds, another is titled Reflections of Trees. Setting sun captures the fiery gold of late afternoon. Green Reflections focuses on the deep shadows of the weeping willows. Monet's weeping willows were a symbol of mourning during the war. He spent 30 years in total painting the water lilies. There are approximately 250 paintings in the entire series. The word nymphaea comes from the Greek word for nymph. According to myth, a nymph who died of love for Hercules was reborn as a water lily. Monet loved the way the water lilies anchored the sky's reflection. He described the garden as his most beautiful work of art. He often sat in his garden for hours in total silence. He didn't just paint what he saw, but how he felt while looking.
The paintings are often seen as the bridge between Impressionism and abstract expressionism. Later artists like Jackson Pollock were deeply influenced by the all-over style of the Lilies. Monet died at Giverny on December 5, 1926.
He was 86 years old. His funeral was simple, as he requested. Clemenceau famously removed the black shroud from his casket, saying, "No black for Monet." He replaced it with a cloth of colors, flowered cretonne. After his death, the Orangerie exhibit opened in May 1927. For many years, the water lilies were not popular and were even covered by temporary walls. It wasn't until the 1950s that the public truly rediscovered their beauty. The water garden at Giverny fell into disrepair after World War II. It was restored in the late 1970s by Gerald Vanderkamp. Today, over 600,000 people visit Giverny every year. The Japanese bridge has been rebuilt to match Monet's original design. The pond is still filled with the same varieties of lilies Monet favored. Bamboo, ginkgo, and maple trees still frame the water. The weeping willows are descendants of the ones Monet planted. Monet's house is famous for its bright yellow dining room. His kitchen is covered in blue and white Rouen tiles. He had a passion for good food and kept detailed journals of recipes. He often served his guests vegetables grown in his own potager. He once said, "I am good for nothing except painting and gardening." The Agapanthus Captic is one of his most famous large-scale works outside of France. It is now divided between museums in Cleveland, St. Louis, and Kansas City.
Monet's brushwork in his final years became thick and textural. This technique is known as impasto. Some of his last paintings are so thick they look like sculptures of light. He preferred to work in the winter months in his studio, refining the sketches he made in summer. He never stopped trying to capture the instability of nature. The object is of no importance, he said. What I want to reproduce is what exists between the object and me. Monet's pond was not a natural feature, it was entirely man-made. He referred to the water garden as his Clos Normand. The light at Giverny is unique because of the high moisture content in the Seine Valley air. This moisture creates a haze that softens the edges of physical objects. Monet's first series of water lilies was exhibited in 1900. This first series still featured the Japanese bridge as a central focal point. By 1908, the bridge disappeared from his paintings entirely. He began to focus on the mirror of the water. He described the surface of the pond as a continuous whole. Monet used a wet-on-wet technique to blend colors directly on the canvas. This technique allowed him to capture the fluid movement of water. He often painted with very long brushes to keep a distance from the canvas. This distance helped him judge the overall impression of the light. He was obsessed with the reflex, or the light bouncing off the water's surface. He studied how the lilies broke the reflection of the clouds. The colors of his lily ranged from pure white to deep crimson. He planted yellow lilies specifically to catch the afternoon golden hour. Monet's gardens were inspired by the Japanese stroll garden aesthetic.
He owned over 200 Japanese woodblock prints. Many by Hokusai and Hiroshige. These prints taught him how to crop a scene in unconventional ways. He often left the top and bottom of the pond open-ended in his frames. This creates the illusion that the water extends infinitely beyond the canvas. The water lilies were dormant in the winter, so he focused on the ice and reflections. He once painted the breakup of the ice on the Seine, a precursor to the Lily series. Monet's cataract surgery was performed by Dr. Charles de la Personne. After the surgery, he had to wear special tinted glasses. He complained that the world looked too blue through his corrected lens. He spent months reworking older canvases to fix the colors he saw while impaired. Some critics believe his cataracts actually pushed him toward modern abstraction. His late work is often compared to action painting of the 1950s. The orange repanels were painted on burlap, a coarse material that held thick paint well.
He used a scumbling technique. Rubbing thin layers of opaque paint over darker ones. This created a shimmering, translucent effect. Monet's palette was surprisingly simple. Lead white, cadmium yellow, vermilion, and cobalt blue. He almost never used black paint. Preferring to mix deep violets and greens for shadows. He believed black killed the vibration of light. The pond at Giverny contains several species of dragonflies that appear in his sketches. He loved the fleetingness of a dragonfly landing on a lily pad. He often stood in the same spot for hours, waiting for a specific cloud to pass. He called these moments instantaneities. The weeping willows at the pond's edge were planted in the 1890s. Their long, vertical branches provided a contrast to the horizontal lily pads. Monet viewed the willow branches as curtains for his stage. In the orangerie, the matin, morning panel, is known for its pale, cool blues. The soleil couchant, sunset panel, uses thick strokes of orange and gold. He wanted the viewer to feel as though they were floating in the water. There are no benches in the center of the orangerie rooms, by his request. He wanted people to stand or walk, keeping the body in motion like the water. The lilies in his paintings are often grouped in islands of color. These islands lead the viewer's eye in a zigzag pattern across the canvas. Monet was a founder of the Société des Amis de Giverny. He was very protective of the air quality around his garden. He fought against the construction of a local factory that would emit smoke. His garden was a sensory experience. He planted highly fragrant roses and jasmine. The sound of the water diverted from the Ept was a constant background noise for him. He often had his meals outside, overlooking the water garden. Monet was known to be a gourmand, loving complex sauces and fine wines. His personality was said to be like his paintings, intense and layered. He had a volatile temper, but found peace in the garden. The Nymphaea series is often seen as a response to the horrors of the Great War. While France was in turmoil, Monet was focused on the eternal cycle of nature. He felt a moral duty to complete the orangerie panels for the nation. The canvases were so large they had to be rolled up to be moved. He used a custom-made rolling system in his studio to work on different sections. He often worked on the panels in the all-over style, moving from corner to corner. This prevented any one area from becoming a focal point. His work challenged the traditional Renaissance perspective. He moved towards a flat, decorated surface. This flatness is a hallmark of modern 20th century art. Stuckey notes that Monet's lilies are both surface and depth. You see the reflection of the sky, depth, and the lily pad, surface, simultaneously. This creates a visual vibration that can be very relaxing to watch. Monet's water lilies are some of the most reproduced images in the world. Despite their fame, seeing them in person is said to be a completely different experience. The sheer scale of the orangerie panels is often overwhelming to first-time visitors. Monet insisted on natural top lighting for the museum. He hated the idea of artificial electric lights on his paintings.
The Orangerie building was originally a greenhouse for orange trees. It was chosen because its shape mirrored the curved nature of the pond. Monet's stepdaughter, Blanche Hochade Monet, was also a painter. She helped maintain the gardens after his death. She was one of the few people allowed to watch him paint. Monet was very private about his process and rarely allowed visitors in the studio. He often wore a painter's smock and a straw hat while working. He smoked many cigarettes a day, even while painting. The pond was cleaned of algae every single morning. Monet believed that algae muddled the reflections. He preferred the water to be as clear as a mirror. The lilies would open in the morning and close in the late afternoon. Monet tracked these opening times like a scientist. He was fascinated by the sleep of the flowers. He once said, "I have no other wish than a close fusion with nature." His late paintings are often unsigned because he felt they were never truly finished. He viewed his art as a process, not a product. The Water Lily Pond with the Japanese Bridge, 1899, is in the National Gallery, London. The Clouds, 1920 to 1926, is one of the most ethereal panels in the Orangery. It features no land, no trees, and no horizon. Only the sky and the water. This specific panel is meant to induce a state of weightlessness. Monet's influence can be seen in the works of Mark Rothko. Rothko also used color fields to evoke deep emotional responses.
Monet was an avid reader of the Vilmorin-André Exide catalogues, the most famous in France at the time. He didn't just buy plants, he collected them. Often importing rare specimens from around the world. The water garden was designed to be a botanical studio rather than a traditional park. Monet used the verticality of Iris sibirica to frame the edges of his pond. He planted Wisteria sinensis, Chinese wisteria, in 1894. By the early 1900s, the wisteria had grown so thick it created a tunnel of lavender light. Monet was fascinated by how the wisteria blossoms hung like lilac rain over the water. The white water lilies were his favorite for capturing the purest light of midday. He often used zinc white instead of lead white for a cooler, more translucent glow. Zinc white was slower to dry, allowing him to rework the water's surface for days. He used cobalt violet, a relatively new pigment in the 1890s, to paint the shadows of the lily pads.
"My heart is always at Giverny," he said at the end. We have reached the end of our journey through Giverny. Let these 500 moments of light and color settle within you. Like petals drifting to the bottom of a quiet pond. There is nothing left to learn. Nothing left to hold on to. The history of the garden is now part of your own stillness. As Monet once said, the object is not what matters. It is the space between us and the object. Feel that space now. It is warm. It is soft. It is vast.
The garden remains. Even when we close our eyes. Your body is a landscape of peace. Feel the weight of your feet. Heavy and still. Feel the quiet in your hands. At rest. The colors of the water lilies. The violets. The deep greens. The soft pinks. They are blurring together now. The edges of the room are dissolving. You are the water. You are the reflection. You are the sky. Breathing in. The scent of the garden. Breathing out. The light of the day. Sinking deeper. Into the blue. Into the violet. Rest now. Sleep.